and welcome. I'm Harriet Agbinyi. Tonight, a house is divided against itself as the PDP holds parallel conventions in Port Harcourt and Abuja. Ali Modu Sharif gets the axe. Pastor Tunde Bakare gives a roadmap of what he calls a new Nigeria through constitutional reforms. The Nigerian army insists the second rescued girl is one of the Chibok girls. And Egyptian military releases images of items found during the search for the missing Egypt Air flight MS-804. On business news tonight, Nigerian Stock Exchange assures investors protection from losses that may arise in the delisting of companies.
And in sports news, all is now set for the kickoff of the 8th Channels National Kids Cup as organizers hold draw ceremony for the tournament.
We'll begin tonight from Port Harcourt, the River State capital, where members of the People's Democratic Party came out of its much-anticipated convention even more divided. The convention, which is meant to produce new national officers for the party, ended up with the sack of its chairman, Ali Modu Sharif, and the dissolution of the party's National Working Committee. Our political correspondent, Sheon Okimbaloye, who is in Port Harcourt, now reports.
Early hours of the day, and the Shark Stadium in Port Harcourt, the venue of the PDP National Convention, is without the usual verve you get on an event of this magnitude. Uncertainty hovers on the convention ground as leaders of the party are said to be engaged in several hours of meeting. At last, after over 5 hours of delegates waiting, the governors and chieftains of the party arrived at the venue. As this was happening, on the other side of town, Senator Ali Modu Sharif is addressing a press conference, perhaps on the possible outcome of the several hours of meetings.
Taking into account the decisions of the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, not to supervise the election into the office of the chairman, secretary, and auditor, based on the order of court, irrespective thereof, on the account of the fact that our party is responsible, law-abiding, with high respect for judiciary and courts. We do hereby state and put up the National Convention from taking place. We have suspended it until when all the court cases have been resolved.
But his stance is totally different from what the rest of the party are doing here. In essence, the vote to dissolve the National Working Committee of the party agreed to zone the presidency to the north in 2019 and also cancelled any power zoning arrangement made by the party. The party says it wants to pose a real alternative to the APC government, and by so, it has to do the right things now.
The court injunctions never said don't hold convention. It only said do not hold office in certain places. Now, with what has happened, that has been overtaken. Because there is no election, but by the powers of the convention, the whole working committee has been dissolved. We are reorganizing. We are going to leave Port Harcourt stronger and more united, and we should be able to go back to the people and really campaign vigorously for all the elections coming, the by-elections, the 2 elections coming in Edo and Ondo, and also the runoff that will come in other elections, waiting for 2019.
All said and done, the party sets up a 7-man caretaker committee led by former governor of Kaduna State, Senator Ahmed Makarufi, to steer the affairs of the party and ensure a national convention that will lead to the formation of a new party leadership.
It was an event it came with a lot of uncertainty, with delegates waiting in the stands for several hours for the leaders to come to start the exercise. But at the end of the day, what they got was a caretaker committee that will midwife the party into a state of a national convention that will lead into a fresh new leadership of the party. From here at the Shark Stadium in Port Harcourt, Shewan Kimbalo reporting for Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, a faction of the People's Democratic Party, led by Senator Ibrahim Mantu and Professor Jerry Gana, held a parallel convention in Abuja, the nation's capital. At the same time, the national chairman of the party, Senator Ali Modu Sharif, was scheduled to hold another in Port Harcourt. Conveners of the Abuja convention say the gathering is not one to elect new leaders for the party, but to mobilize members against impunity and lack of internal democracy that led to their failure in 2015.
Aggrieved members of the People's Democratic Party who are opposed to the leadership of the current national chairman of the party, Senator Ali Modu Sharif. This convention, initially scheduled to elect new leaders for the party, is now a gathering to mobilize support against the other faction as substantive court orders forbid the party from electing new leaders. After the other, conveners of the convention take to the podium to urge members to shun impunity and lack of internal democracy, which they say currently exists in the party.
This gathering is to promote the kind of democracy that will return this party to the people. When you want to elect leaders, we respect your will, we respect your election, no imposition, no impunity, no wuru-wuru, no magu-magu, nothing wrong. The mistake we made that led to our losing the 2015 election only shows that we are human. And because we are human, we are bound to make mistakes. But what we must do, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is to learn from our mistakes. What we must do, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is to ensure that we take very good lessons from those mistakes, and therefore we must work together. We must share no impunity. We must ensure that things are done properly. We must make sure that we have respect for law and due process.
Despite the division that exists in the party, some who belong to this faction are hopeful that both factions will soon be united.
I think there will be a lot of work behind the scenes. A lot of work going to be done behind the scenes. When the picture is clear, I believe few people will hear. But for now, like you said rightly, we are conscious of the law, we are conscious of the court judgments, we are conscious of our responsibility, and we are conscious of the future of our party. What we are going to do is I want to encourage all our members nationwide to stay calm. We want them to stay calm in the sense that they should not be agitated. This is a temporary situation. It will come to pass.
It is not going to be the end of the party. I am sure that the lives of Senator Mantu and others are not just elders, but they are experienced politicians. That at the end of the day, I know a roundtable discussion must come up.
As it stands, the disagreements that trail the emergence of Senator Ali Modu Sharif as PDP national chairman are far from being over, and the battle to save the soul of the party is still very much alive.
Well, joining me now on the news at 10 is a legal practitioner, GT Ogunye, to shed more light or to give us more perspectives to this issue. So good evening to you, Mr. Ogunye. Thank you for coming on the news at 10. But what do you make of today's convention of the People's Democratic Party?
Well, it's obvious that the party is in distress. Referencing David Mark now, who once said that their party was hemorrhaging, I'm quoting him, and that it was in a state of coma. What we've seen today is that the PDP more or less is unraveling, and it's up to their members to put their house in order, if indeed they really want to play an opposition role effectively against the party that's in power. But this is very doubtful because historically, the PDP came into being as an SPV, special purpose vehicle. The military was retreating from power. and they then coupled together a vehicle that they were going to hand over power to. And so for 16 years, they used that power. And once that power at the center is no longer there, it appears the center is not able to hold any longer. People have characterized this in several manners, including calling it post-election trauma and all that. But I think that it may just be that Nigeria is better than the political parties that we have right now, not just the PDP, APC inclusive, and that eventually in the life of the Nigerian people and country, it may be necessary to see this as a phase, to see this as transitional parties, expecting that newer and better parties will emerge over time, and then they'll be able to justify why we have this ritual of democratic election every 4 years. Yeah, thus far, it's been so dissatisfactory and very shameful.
But then, you know, the former governor of Niger State, who is also one of the members of the party, says that all of this, despite all the challenges and the issues that they're having, the party is going to leave Port Harcourt much stronger.
It's left Port Harcourt weaker. A party that had a substantive leadership is now having an interim arrangement. And then a boastful partisan looks at the world and say, we're going to come out of this stronger. How stronger can you be when you have two factions, one in Port Harcourt, one in Abuja, at daggers drawn, separately, and you had a court injunction saying that you cannot even constitute a leadership, and so you had an ad hoc arrangement. Abuja Sharif was there. I know it's been shunted, and then you have an interim arrangement, and you are saying you are stronger. How strong can you be? So politicians can say anything, but interpretative discourse must see it differently.
Legally, do you think the due process was properly followed in terms of the removal of Ali Modu Sharif as the chairman?
I think that it was the smartest thing to do for them in Port Harcourt in the circumstances. We're having a convention and there's a court injunction, and so that you can't constitute a leadership. So if you didn't heed the court injunction and you constituted a leadership, that, you know, apparently will fly in the face of the rule of law, and, you know, it has a way, by way of mandatory injunction of cancelling out what had been done, and so it was a smart move.
Okay, so even though the parties do not operate in isolation, but they have their own code of conduct as well that they have to abide by, and they also have to follow the rule of law, coming by the directions from the court and the rest of it. In the days to come, what do you expect to happen to the PDP? It
is doubtful that people, and I'm speaking generally, who have scant regard for the code of conduct in the 5th schedule of the Nigerian Constitution will have any truck with the code of conduct of their party. I think that in our political system, the mentality of the end justifies the means has taken hold for too long. People will commit all sorts of transgressions against their party rules, against the Constitution of Nigeria, so that they can just hold on to power. And so they believe that all other things will be sorted out, you know, eventually. And I think that mentality has, you know, permeated the landscape of our political party system for too long. And that's why I say what I said earlier, that the time has come for the Nigerian people to really think about having new organizations, exercising to the fullest their right to freedom of association. Nigerians ought not to be condemned, because partisans are boasting, we'll take over power, we'll retain power and all that. Nigeria ought not to be condemned to alternating or oscillating between these two political parties. It's reductionist. We're better than this. And so if we really need to, you know, take charge of our country and our lives, because it's our own lifetime, we really must think seriously about political party system, rather than just pull back and allow this kind of show of shame to go on in the name of political party system. And I'm speaking generally, not just about the PDP.
Gt. Ogunya, thank you so much for coming on the news at 10 and sharing your perspectives with us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Gt. Ogunya is a legal practitioner there, sharing with us his perspectives on issues with regards to the PDP convention that was held today. In part 2, after the break, the United Nations and the Netherlands partner to resettle internally displaced persons in Borno State. Join us again.